Okay, so if you have the wheel and axle, this one's not too bad to do. You're going to have a wheel and axle sort of set up already on a ring stand like so, and you got a couple of strings coming off of that. And so one side of the axle, or one side of the strings, you're going to hang a heavy weight. The heavy weight will go on the center string, and then the other side is going to have the bigger wheel portion is going to be where you hang the lighter weights. You'll see that operation here in a minute. So first thing you got to do is you got to measure the IMA for this, and so IMA again is a ratio of maybe the outer radius to the inner radius. So depending on where those strings are attached, you're going to try to measure what those radii are. So let's see, if I go through there and measure that, that's roughly, trying to get an accurate number there. It might be a radius of about 5.5 centimeters, and then I go to the other one and measure that to maybe 1.5, somewhere in that area. Again, you're going to take the measurements based on where those ropes are located. Now for AMA, in order to get this thing set up so that you can actually operate this, the tricky part is that you're going to end up winding this thing up like so, and again, this rope has to sort of stay on that wheel. So I'm going to do this sort of slowly here so that I can get that rope to stay on there. Don't worry about the other one for the time being. So you're going to wind that up so that that rope is hanging like so. And that's where you're going to place the lighter weight. But in order to do that, you're going to end up having to take this one. Now you notice this thing was turning, I was winding it that way. I'm going to have this thing going like so that when I pull this thing up, this thing is going to be able to pull that. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this the other way for that, right? So I'm going to go like this, so that as this thing turns, it's going to, oh, I did that wrong, so I'm going to end up having to go this way with it. So as that thing turns, it's going to lift this other weight. So I'm just going to wrap this around a little bit so that it sort of pre-winds it. And then when we get to this point, I can take something like a heavy weight here. I'm going to set the thing down here for a second. So I got that heavy weight attached to that center axle, and then what I need to do is I need to hang some weights on this side to be able to get that thing to lift. Okay, and so again, it takes a little bit of time to get this thing set up correctly. The ropes have to be sort of wound in opposite directions. If I take a 50-gram weight and place it on there, you can see that that's not quite enough to be able to lift that. So then what I have to do is I just have to keep adding weights to that, small values at a time, to try to get it to be able to lift. And so the AMA is again going to be related to the ratio of the masses, whereas the IMA is related to the ratio of the radii. Okay, so you just have to keep going until you finally get this thing to the point where that's able to lift it. And so I would keep going, adding some more to it until it gets to the point where it's able to lift that thing up. It looks like I just have to keep going with this, and eventually I'm going to get to an input weight that's enough to be able to lift that. It looks like I need to add a couple more for this video. I don't have that, but when you go to do that, just keep adding those weights until you get to the point where that's able to lift it. And then the AMA is just going to be a ratio of the masses, this mass here to the amount of mass that I hang on there. And that's the setup. When you're done, just go ahead and return everything to its original state. Just be very careful when you disconnect everything here. Those ropes can get tangled into this mess here, and so we want to try to keep this from being tangled so the next group can go through and do this lab investigation with having equipment that is still operable. Okay, so there we go. That's that portion of the lab.